This is Ashton Marcus with A&B Theater, and I'm on location at Stages Theater for the world premiere of Five Knaves for Breakfast, a re-imaging of the John Hughes 80s cult film The Breakfast Club, as if written by William Shakespeare. Set in Elizabethan England, this wildly entertaining play weaves the story of five high school students, all different stereotypes, all sentenced to Saturday detention, where they pour their hearts out to each other and discover how they have a lot more in common than they thought.
My name is Hiro Carlyle.
Oh, yeah. And you do?
I wrote the play, I guess.
Yeah. So how did you do that? How did you prepare for it?
Well, originally I was commissioned to write it by the theater, and then I actually had never seen the film before. So after being given the project, I began to research the film and then figure out how best to adapt it to Elizabethan English, taking the standard tropes of the John Hughes film and then combining them with the standard Shakespearean tropes to try and create something that wasn't a parody of either, but more of an homage to both.
Did you? How did you get the balance without it being? I can imagine it being a little ludicrous a bit. I mean, this is like, I can see this guy, but this Shakespeare. I mean, how did you get that balance?
It was actually really hard. They didn't have detention in 14th century Florence, so there were a few logical gaps. A lot of research looking into things, how best to equate things, like changing all of the names. A little known fact is all of the names are actually the Italian equivalent of the original characters' names, and that took a little bit of research. So it was give and take, coming from it from an academic standpoint, which I do. I wanted to balance my honoring of Shakespeare with just, it's a comedy and let's have fun with it and let's keep the absurdity live and well, because I think that's what the audience resonates to as much as the seriousness of it as well.
Do you mean comedy as in a Shakespearean comedy where basically no one dies, or do you mean comedy as in everyone should be laughing?
Yeah, well, that gets into it, because this isn't a traditional Shakespearean comedy. I mean, you have the two couples at the end kind of getting together, but there's no marriages. The stakes aren't very high, and it's very, very real. It's very much exploring the human connection. That's what drew me to the project, is could I say what was true in the 80s of teenage life, what's true now for teenagers, and what was true in the 1600s, what was true then? And exploring that and creating that universal language, I think, was much more important to me than trying to follow comedic theatrical tropes.
Have you written any other plays?
No, this is actually my first. I've done other writing before, screenplays and things like that, but this would be my first stage play.
Oh. So how would you evaluate yourself then?
I'd give it I'll do it again if they ask me. But other than that, it was a blast. It was a cool medium to play with, and it was awe-inspiring to watch people say my words on stage in that very natural way that you don't get when you're doing film projects or things like that. Theater is a very different world, and it's a beautiful world in its own way.
Are you an actor yourself?
Yes, I acted when I was younger. I mostly do improvised comedy now, and then writing.
I do notice you're tall. Hollywood just loves tall actors.
To an extent. I get to play bad guys if I wanted to, but mostly what I enjoy doing is connecting with audiences and entertaining. So comedy and writing, in a weird way, really are very honest mediums to present themselves, and that was an awesome experience with this, being able to do that.
Thank you very much for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
My name is Ashton Marcus, and I'm with KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine.
Hi, I'm Jill Johnson, director of Five Knaves for Breakfast at Stages Theater in Fullerton, California.
So, how did you come up with this play?
Actually, I didn't come up with it. Amanda DeMaio contacted me about 3 months ago. They commissioned Hiro Carlyle to write the piece. It is the 30th anniversary of the Breakfast Club, and thought it would be appropriate, and it actually turned out very well. I'm very pleased with the project and the process, and everybody's been fantastic and supportive, and it's just enough of Shakespearean language to relate to the normal everyday audience, and just enough of the movie and to get those John Hughes blood pumping vibes.
Yeah. So what were you looking for? Were you looking for people with Shakespearean experience or people who had experience in films such as The Breakfast Club?
Actually, I was looking for both. A lot of our actors have good Shakespearean backgrounds. Some of them actually haven't seen The Breakfast Club, which is surprising. We have one girl who's quite young and was born out of the generation of the John Hughes films. So it was a great mix of people, and having them watch certain parts of the movie and kind of marry the two together and make it really something that everybody could remember and relate to and be like, I remember that moment, but yet it's still Shakespearean.
Okay. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I've been a director for probably 20-odd years or so. I was originally over at the Hunger Artist Theater Company. I went to OCC, and I actually went to UCI, so I am a fellow anteater. And I've been directing all over Orange County. I've directed in Santa Ana and in Fullerton now, and in Long Beach, and so it's a great experience. I love being part of the storefront community theater community.
So what do you think of the performance?
I thought it was fantastic. I think these kids have really taken it and made it their own, and they've really done a great job marrying the two Shakespearean dialect with the movie and with the iconicism of the John Hughes era, and they're having a blast doing it, and it's really just fun to watch. I put my script down and I just sit back and I watch them, and I go on the journey with them, and it's just a lot of fun. I never get bored of watching it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What was your purpose behind the show?
My purpose was to make Shakespearean language more accessible. In high school, in college, we were forced to read certain classics, Romeo and Juliet, and a lot of people feel very intimidated by the language. Shakespearean iambic pentameter can be very daunting and very hard to listen to. So one of the things that Hiro allowed us to do with this script was language-wise make it more accessible to a broader audience, and so people can now come see what in a sense is a John Hughes film and say, oh, I know exactly what that part is, I know exactly what's happening on at this point, and they understand the language and it clicks. And so I hope that we're going to be able to do more shows with this kind of marriage of language so that we can open the doors more to Shakespeare and people can feel more comfortable with the language and understanding it.
Okay, well, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And you are?
I'm Tom Moyer.
And you play?
I played Carlos, the custodian. Carlos is the keeper of the keys. He's the man who really makes the Abbey run. He's the man behind Father Vernio.
Yeah. So your part was kind of a supporting actor part.
Absolutely. But not. I mean, there are no small parts. So.
Yeah. So how did you focus in on this? I mean, what kind of emotions can you grab for this?
He's known most of these kids. He's seen them come into the Abbey and out of the Abbey over the years, and there's a soft spot in his heart for each one of these children.
Do you have much of an acting background?
Oh, yes. I've been acting for over 40 years. Yeah.
So what have you done?
Well, I just did a play called The Man from Earth. It's based on a Jerome Bixby motion picture screenplay. And I have done quite a bit of Shakespeare recently. I finished a production of Tempest last summer. I've done what we like to call the Scottish play, the one we don't mention the name of, Othello, Twelfth Night, Romeo and Juliet. I also do a lot of murder mystery plays. So I have a varied acting background.
So what kind of advice can you give for our young viewers who are actually thinking about getting into acting?
Just go for it, and don't be afraid. I mean, whatever you do in an audition, if it makes you stand out to the director, it's usually a good thing.
Yeah, so have you ever done anything you regretted?
Absolutely not.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, all of the acting choices, whether they've been good or bad, have always resulted in some positive outcome. For me, it's always been forward-moving. So.
Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you so much. It was fun.
And you are?
Luisa Rueckert.
And you play?
Clara Destare. She's the spoiled heiress. She comes from a really wealthy family, and she has to go to the detention. She feels she's better than everyone else in the room and shouldn't be there. And as she gets to know the other people, you know, her truth comes out and she cares for the others. And she has a change of heart that they can be friends afterwards.
Did you feel like you got a connection with the audience?
Yeah, I could feel that, you know, we had fans of the Breakfast Club there, and so it was fun to hear them reacting and laughing to different parts that I'm sure they were excited to see because they know the Breakfast Club. Yeah.
I was actually amazed at the silence, because there was actually some points where you could hear a pin drop in the audience.
Yeah, this play has that because each character has, you know, their own monologue that is pretty dramatic and heavy with feeling that, you know, there's definitely those moments where it's just completely silent and the audience, I think, is a little taken aback by, you know, the strong emotion that's coming out. And so it's, yeah, you could hear a pin drop.
Do you have much of an acting background?
Yeah, I did performances in high school, and I have, you know, done musical theater, and then I've done some professional jobs in LA as well.
Good. So how do you prepare yourself for something like this? Do you look at the original movie?
Yeah, I did watch it because I hadn't seen it in a bunch of years. And so I watched it again so that I could get real familiar with it. And, you know, we played it close to the characters, but there's a little bit of an adjustment when you're doing live theater, you know, versus a film. So, you know, having a little more theatrical expression or drama, you know, we had to make those adjustments, but we definitely, you know, tried to stay true to the movie too.
Very well. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Okay, you're welcome. Thanks.
I'm Aaron Ricosa.
And you play?
I play Andreas. He's the soldier in training. He's the jock from the movie, so it carries over as being a soldier. He comes knowing that he wants to be a soldier and leaving thinking that that's not the life he wants to live because he's learned that he wants to set his own path instead of take with the path that the Duke laid out for him.
Do you have much of a Shakespearean background?
I don't. Actually, this is my first acting venture.
Yeah. Did you major in college in acting?
I did not. Majored in film production, so I do a lot of film work, and I like acting and that stuff, so I decided, why not try a play?
So you actually just decided to wing this, and you actually got the part?
Yeah, actually, I didn't even know about it. My buddy came over one night, and he was like, hey, I'm going to this audition, you should come. And I was like, I don't have anything prepared. He was like, it's a cold reading, so you can just wing it. And I was like, all right, sure, I'll try it out. And I came in, she liked me, and I got the part.
Oh, did she try to mentor you? Because have you ever done this before at all?
No, I've never done anything like this before. So I was pretty nervous starting with like old English like this too, and it was a lot of lines. So I was pretty nervous at first, but with all the rehearsals and the direction by Jill was fantastic. So yeah, I mean it worked out great, and I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I would not have guessed that you had never done this before.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
So in your future, do you think you'll continue the acting side or you'll do the other side?
I really enjoy both sides. I definitely am going to try to pursue acting now. I think I enjoyed it a lot more. But, I mean, I enjoy being behind the camera, too, so in films.
Yeah, well, most actors actually do go behind the camera afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, directing and producing, a lot of actors seem to be doing that, too. So, I mean, I would love both sides. That would be fantastic.
Have you done anything on the directing side or the backstage side?
Actually, my favorite thing to do is writing. So I've written some like web series and stuff like that, and short films that I've filmed with buddies in college. And then I do editing and filming for sports teams. But no directing or producing or anything.
Well, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you.
And you are?
I'm Zach.
And you play?
Brianna. He is a man in turmoil between the love of God and the love of a woman. He struggles with that throughout the whole play, and it comes unglued at the end.
Yeah, that's a little different from the film.
It really is.
Did you basically just start from scratch? How did you get to your character?
You know how I looked at this? I looked at this Briano as opposed to Brian in the movie. He's kind of a distant descendant of Brian in the movie. So because it's similar character. So I took some of the mannerisms from the film, and incorporated in Briano. But I was, he's not struggling with grades or an F. He's struggling with something a lot, I think, in my opinion, more deep and heartfelt, which is love. So, it was just about finding that inner turmoil of that. Yeah.
Yeah. What were you focusing on for your emotions? Because I've seen a lot of Shakespeare, and it's when they try to express deep emotions, they're just kind of shouting at each other. I noticed you were a very quiet character.
That's just, I'm a quiet guy, so I tried to bring that in, but I wanted to, it's got to be heard by people, but I wanted to, he's dealing with the inner, throughout the play. He's not telling people about his emotions between Portia, his lover, and then, and then being a good acolyte for God. So, it was just about keeping it in. I was keeping it in the heart, and then it starts to come unglued when Clara, or Luisa's character, she kind of brings it out with that anger, and I was just like, all right, here's the burst, it's coming. Yeah.
Do you have much of an acting background?
I've acted in with other than college and high school and stuff. I acted in Long Beach Playhouse and A Christmas Carol last year. Yeah, not last December, a year from last December. Yeah. So, but this is my second professional gig outside of school. So, yeah.
This will be your college major?
This is my college major. I graduated. Yeah. So I graduated from Cal State Long Beach with a degree in Bachelor of Arts Performance Acting.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the official title.
So do you think you'll try to be a professional actor?
I'm working on that. Yes, absolutely. That's my hope.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, is there any advice you can give to newer actors what they could do?
Take classes, audition, have faith in yourself, and don't lose the dream. That's what I say.
All right. Thank you very much for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And you are?
Emily Contino.
And you play?
Alicia. Alicia is kind of a random, she's very dark and mysterious, and she tries to get under everyone's skin, and she just listens for what gets everybody really riled up and everything. She's a little odd, and she falls for Andreas in the show, and she's just a very interesting lady.
Do you have much of an acting background?
I've been acting since I was in preschool. Yeah. I did it through high school, and this is my first production out of high school and in the community. I moved here about a year ago, so and I auditioned here before, and then this is the second audition I've had here, and I actually got the part. So yeah.
So is this something you'll be majoring in college?
Absolutely, yes. This is something that I would love to do for the rest of my life, yeah.
Why do you think that? Do you feel some kind of calling or something?
I do, yeah. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what I wanted to do because I have lots of things that I'm quote-unquote good at, and I thought about it really hard, and I realized that the one thing that I would want to wake up and do for the rest of my life that would still keep me happy would be acting. So I just figured that that's the best option,
Well, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you very much.
And you are?
My name is Cameron Moore. I played John D. Pygari in Five Knaves for Breakfast at Stages Theater. John is sort of the motley rogue as we describe him in the show. He's probably looked at as the criminal of the group. He's the most, what's the word I'm looking for? He's kind of abused physically of all the actual characters. He's got an abusive home life, which you see in the show, and comes out a lot in his attitude towards everything, pretty much, that he does and says. So, yeah, he's got a very dark history.
Do you have much of a Shakespearean background?
I've done a few Shakespearean shows. I really enjoy them, though. I have a lot of fun with the language. It's fun taking something that when you first read it, you might have no idea what you're looking at, and then being able to turn that into the emotions and conveying that to the audience so that they can actually understand what's being said, even though it's not really English, contemporary English in this day and age.
Yeah, Shakespeare actually, he was a big fan of anti-heroes.
I could see that. He definitely has some interesting characters he's written that show that for sure.
So would you consider yourself the anti-hero on this play?
Yes, definitely. He's far from the hero. He's kind of vicious in a lot of the things that he does and says. I think that comes from his background at home. But he's also still got a likable side to him, I think, and you do still want to feel for him, even though he's a bit of an ass the entire time. So yeah, I would definitely see him as the anti-hero.
So, I mean, when you looked at this thing, did you realize you'd be the center, you'd be the leading man in this play?
Not really. Actually, I'd worked with Jill once before, and she contacted me about the part, and I had never actually seen the movie going into it. She kind of described the character, and it sounded like fun. I enjoy playing something where I can sort of play a range of emotions. So when I actually ended up getting the script, I was a little bit overwhelmed because there were a lot of lines. And so, yeah, no, I had no idea. But yeah, it's definitely been a fun trek getting to do it, though.
So what do you think of the play, then?
I enjoy it. So like I said, I hadn't seen The Breakfast Club going into this, but since then I've watched it a couple times. I really enjoy the movie, and I think it's a lot of fun putting it into this time period and changing the words around while keeping a lot of the same premises that the movie had. I think the show's a lot of fun. It's a little bit strenuous being on stage for 90 minutes straight with no break, but other than that, I love it.
Okay. Are you a lot like your character?
I have my moments, yeah, and I kind of like that. My character is similar to me in the sense that I can express some of the emotions I feel off stage, on stage, and be able to then save them in my normal relationships outside of here. But yeah, there are definitely some similarities, and I think that's something you kind of have to find though with any character you're playing, either similarities or dissimilarities that. You can relate to then bring out that character.
Good. Well, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Five Knaves for Breakfast will be playing at Stages Theater from January 24th to February 21st. For more information, go to www.stagesoc.org or search for AMB Theater on